so, in the Old Testament book of Exodus, God brings this list of expectations that he has for his people. And the people respond by saying in Exodus 19:8, we will do all that the Lord has spoken. That's a pretty bold statement, right? I think we probably all said that before, but that's like a big deal. It's like everything you said. They're not being honest and say, 75%. No. Everything you say, we're going to do. We'll do all that the Lord has spoken. I believe, we don't know, but I believe it was probably from a pretty sincere place. That they really intended to fulfill this promise, this commitment to God. We'll do every single thing you ask. The Apostle Paul wrote to the first century in the church in Thessalonica, the city of Thessalonica, and he said, our gospel did not come to you in word only, but also in power, in the Holy Spirit, and with full assurance. And the word there, assurance, means complete certainty. That comes this moment as you're understanding the gospel and you're comprehending God, you come to this complete certainty that God really is who he says he is. He's not like some make-believe thing. It's not just a bunch of people out there worshiping some fake thing, but he's real. He's real. And that you truly believe him with all of your heart, and there are no doubts. And because of that, you're willing to give like everything to him. You give your entire life to him, and you make this commitment to him. I'm sure you've done that. Many of us in this room have done that. I've done that. Done it multiple times. I'm sure you've done it multiple times. Because the problem is, like the Old Testament believers, we desire with all of our hearts to follow and obey God. But that desire to be obedient can just fly away in a moment if we're not careful. It can slowly erode, but also it can just be gone in a moment. Just 40 days after making this commitment, God will do anything you want. Anything, we're in, 100%. We're in Exodus, right? 40 days after that, some of these early believers strayed as far from that comment as you can possibly imagine. They went completely the opposite direction. Moses had gone up on a mountain to hear from God, and he ends up staying there longer than everybody expected. They thought, he'll be back, for supper or something. Who knows? Whatever their expectations were. But 40 days goes by, and in that short amount of time, the people completely bail on the promise they had made 40 days earlier. Exodus 32:1, when the people saw that Moses delayed in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said to him, come make gods for us who will go before us. This Moses, the man who brought us up from Egypt, from the land of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. They're basically saying, hey, he's probably dead. He's been gone 40 days. Who goes for 40 days up into the mountain? He's got to be dead. So, just go ahead and make new gods for us. Wow. That's a big statement. And so Aaron, the spiritual giant that he is, also a leader, along with Moses of the people, he replies, and then we'll take off the golden rings that are on your ears and of your wives and your sons and your daughters and bring them to me. So all the people took off the gold rings that were on their ears and brought them to Aaron. He took the gold from them, fashioned it with an engraving tool, made it into the image of a calf. It's like, wait, what? What? And then they said, Israel, these are your gods who brought you up from the land of Egypt. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of it and made an announcement. There will be a festival to the Lord tomorrow. Early the next morning, they arose, offered burnt offerings, presented fellowship offerings. The people sat down to eat and drink and got up to party. These are the same people who just recently had lived through the 10 plagues of Egypt. You remember those? The frogs, the flies, all that stuff, right? The gnats. And in those plagues, they were not just random plagues willy-nilly, like, let's try frogs, that'll be fun. And it wasn't that. These were God single-handedly, one after another, cutting off the gods of Egypt at their knees. Basically saying, hey, I've come to get my people, try and stop me. So every one of the gods of Egypt were getting cut down and cut down and cut down by the sovereignty of God, and he showed himself superior to all of them. The boils, the hail, all of that. These are the people who had been pinned against the Red Sea, were surely going to die because because they had been released, and the army of Egypt was coming back saying, you know what, we changed our mind, we're going to bring you back, and then we're going to leave, if nothing else, we're going to kill you, right? And so they're between this Red Sea and the army of Egypt, and they were there when the walls of water separated and they walked by on dry land on their own feet. They were there when the walls of water came back down and the entire Egyptian army was wiped out in one day. They witnessed all of that. There's no room in this story for a golden calf. The story doesn't say, and a golden calf came out of the water and gored the Egyptian army. No, it was God. It was Yahweh. It was God. There's no room for any of calf in any of this story. Yahweh had been leading them by fire by night and a cloud by day. There was no question who he was. What in the world happened to these people? I mean, in a matter of 40 days, turning from, we'll do anything you ask, to this golden calf is the real God who led us out of Egypt. Let's worship him. Whatever it is, you know. What I want to do is share 5 hard truths about life today that I think can be counteracted. We're talking about small groups in the context of all this today, but if these are just some hard truths about life, that about us too, not just them, that I think small groups will help us with as it's kind of woven through here. 5 hard truths. One is that we quickly walk away from even our most sincere commitments. We make commitments all the time. I mean, all the time. All kinds of commitments. You make a commitment to your spouse, I'm going to talk to you more, I'll be nice to you, blah, 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 and within a week, you're back to how you were. You make commitments to our budgets, and then pretty soon you break that. You make commitment to your food plan, and it's not long to be like, well, okay, maybe a cookie or two, and you stray from that. We make commitments and we just walk away from it. My dad, 40 years ago, took me to lunch or something one day. We were eating at a meal. I remember sitting in a restaurant, and him saying, here's the thing, someday you may be part of a church campaign, like a finance campaign. And here's the deal. He said, don't let people commit to the church because they won't follow through. Because what you would do, have them get a loan from the bank and bring the money, because that way they're committed to the bank, and the bank's not going to let them just walk away from it. And I thought, that's the most ridiculous thing. People of God make commitments they never, and you know what we've discovered through the years when we have financial, campaigns, is kind of a trust but verify. Okay, we had X amount committed, well, let's just see what really comes in. Why? Because we so easily walk away. We may have been sincere at the moment. It might have been like, yes, I'm going to do this. And then it's like, well, yeah, but I want a new car. Or I want something else, whatever, stuff, life happens. And all of a sudden, that 3-year commitment, I decided I don't like the way you serve donuts, so I'm going to go to the Baptist church. And it was like, well, I'm not going to fulfill that commitment, even though it was called a commitment. So it's kind of crazy how we just walk away from that stuff. So we learn to trust but verify, like, okay, but you can't make hard decisions because our commitments are pretty feeble, in honesty. Aaron, this holy man, right, the servant of God, turns from spokesman for God. He was supposed to be Moses' mouth, right? He turns from spokesman for God to, look at the golden calf, everybody. Here's your new gods. They're the ones who got you out of Egypt. What? Let's throw a party. Let's worship the calf. Everybody tomorrow, come on out. How in the world does that happen? I grew up in a tradition where we had invitation hymns in every service. I mean, it was. You just did. You don't not have an invitation hymn, and I just grew up in that, and it's fine. I don't have a whatever, but after every message there'd be some type of commitment song that would start, and it was usually kind of an emotional pull at the heartstring thing, and the preacher would go into a emotional, maybe even guilt-ridden thing like, come on, you got to come, make a decision for Christ, and the heart's right in this, and the hopes was to get people to walk down the aisle and dedicate themselves to Christ or rededicate themselves to Christ, because we all tend to walk away sometimes from the commitments we make, and so I grew up, that was normal, and there was one preacher I sat under for a number of years who, man, he took this like times 10, right? I mean, he had his little signal for the guy, ear, whatever it was, and the guy would start playing, and then it'd start getting like, ooh, okay, we know we're landing a plane here. He'd go into some story, and there'd be tears and guilt and all this stuff, and then we'd go into, we're going to sing verses 1, 3, and 5, and then we're going to sing it again. Let's go back to verse 2. If no one came, he'd keep singing. He would never stop until someone came. I mean, you could go 10 minutes singing the same song over and over again. Okay, we're going to go back. Or maybe he'd pause for a while and tell another emotional story and get everybody, oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, I'm terrible. And do verse 2 now. And he never would stop. And in this particular setting, it wasn't, 150 people, 200, or whatever. You'd get to the point where finally, like, one of the same two people would finally come up every week, in tears, rededicating their life, because for one thing, we all want to go home, eat lunch, and I don't know, but it seemed so sincere. It seemed so real. I mean, they're sobbing, like, oh, I need to commit myself to the Lord. I'm like, didn't you do that 2 weeks ago? This is me, young me, trying to, like, what did you do in the last 2 weeks that makes you to come in tears again 2 weeks later? Maybe, I don't know what was going on, but that really soured me to the whole invitation process. That was the tradition I grew up in, which is really why I've never really done the tradition thing, the invitation thing very much, because didn't see it as a lasting thing. What I discovered through experience was the lasting commitments tend to be when I'm sitting down with someone, or someone's sitting in a small group of people sitting down having conversations, and commitments are made there and decisions, because all of a sudden there's more people involved in the decision, and you're walking through this together. It's not just on an emotional whim in a key in E minor with someone singing "Giving My Life," and you hit the moment, it hits you that you forget on by Tuesday. It's more of a solid commitment because you got people walking that road with you. We just tend to walk away from even our most sincere commitments. Now, second hard fact is that we can go from godly to wicked in a matter of moments. So maybe it really was genuine every 2 weeks for these people in my congregation. I wouldn't know them if I saw them. I hope none of them are here today. That was 40 years ago, 50 years. But we can go from godly to wicked in a matter of moments. What Israel did, and this is all of us, right? We all have this nature, right? What Israel did was more than just falling off the wagon. It wasn't an oops or an unintentional, boy, I didn't see that coming. It was very intentional. It was pre-planned. It was a rebellion against God. It took time to say, hey, here's what I want you to do. Grab earrings for all your family. Okay, so it took time to collect the earrings. It took time to bring them to Aaron. It took time for him to do what he did, to craft it into a calf. It took time to plan the calf. Everything was very intentional. The process took thought and like I said, planning. And then Aaron says, okay, this is looking great. Now tomorrow, so he's already looking ahead, saying tomorrow we're really going to put the rebellion up a notch. We're going to have a festival. Come on out. We're going to party like you've never partied before, because these are the gods who brought you out of Egypt. That was very intentional what happened there. They went from godly to wicked in a matter of moments. It all led to what one translation calls revelry. My translation, if you notice, called it partying. And I read once that the Hebrew word that's used there is a word for foreplay, and in the context of a group, it's talking about an orgy. Right? So it was a very open, as much of the pagan worship was at that time, and still is to this day, a very open, sexual, sensual, everything you can imagine was going on around this golden calf. These people went from, we'll do everything you want us to do, God, to let's get drunk and naked and have an orgy. Godly to wicked, literally in a matter of moments. That's what happened there. So about that time, God sends Moses back to the people, because he's been up in the mountain. He's been getting the 10 Commandments. He's been fasting. He's been having this holy time with God. And God sends Moses back to the people. God wants to wipe them out because he knows what's going on. But Moses talks him out of it. It's like, whoa, don't do that. I mean, come on. We've been doing this for a long time. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the people, all this history. You don't want to just start over with me, which is what God kind of said he would do. And then when he actually sees what's going on at the camp, Moses, I think he kind of regrets maybe talking God out of his plan. Because in Exodus 32:19, it says, as he approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, the orgy, Moses became enraged, and he threw the tablets out of his hands, smashing them at the base of the mountain. He took the calf they had made, burned it up, ground it to powder, scattered the powder over the surface of the water, and forced the Israelites to drink the water. God takes sin seriously. I know our culture doesn't today. Don't ever forget. God takes sin so seriously. That leads to our third hard truth, is that we need people who love us enough to get angry when we sin. Not angry at us, but angry at the sin that's going on. Moses didn't hate the people. He's trying to save the people. But he saw what was going on, and it enraged him. Man, it doesn't take long to get enraged at this culture today. But we need people who personally, not just in a generic, I'm mad at the world. No. I need people in my life who will get angry when they see me sinning. Moses saw what nobody else evidently could see as they were there worshiping, quote unquote, this calf. They saw fun, they saw pleasure, they saw freedom, whatever they thought that meant. They saw a god, small g, a pagan god that they could touch and feel and dance around. What did Moses see? He saw sin. He saw something that was leading to the destruction of what God had just been doing. And so while everyone was running around enjoying the moment, Moses was so disgusted by what he saw, he actually breaks the tablets that God had just handwritten for him, for the people to have, the 10 Commandments. Now let that soak in for a moment. It's not too often that you see God handwriting something for us, you know. I mean, we have the written word, we have, inspiration, we have all the things, right? But this was like God's saying, here it is. I'll print this out for you. Let me write this out for you. Go ahead and take this to the people. I mean, you think that's something that they would really, really value, right? You think that's something that Moses would like make sure nothing would ever happen to these stone tablets. But Moses was so disgusted with the people, he threw the tablets down and immediately went to work getting the people back where they needed to be. He loved them. He loved them. Now, I know, because I'm a person, right? Our carnal flesh, we don't really want someone getting up in our business. If I'm out there worshiping the calf, I don't want a Moses saying, hey, Dan, stop it. I'll fight it, which is all the more reason why we need it. As we're pushing back, we need someone who doesn't care, and they're going to keep pushing because they love us that much. They're not going to let us just wallow in the sin that we're living in. We want someone who's so passionate about helping us that they don't care if you get mad at them, and if you cross a line or something. Wouldn't it be nice if someone would get in your face once in a while and call you out for allowing your spiritual walk to fade away? I want that. All right, I need that, because all of us are susceptible to that. Look what Moses does, verse 31, chapter 32. Moses asked Aaron, what did these people do to you that you've led them into such a grave sin? Like, Aaron, what's going on? What happened here? And look at this. Man, it's a disappointment. but we're all here. We're all like this too. Don't be enraged, my Lord, Aaron replied. You yourself know that the people are intent on evil. It's like, I can't help it, right? They said to me, make gods for us who will go before us, because this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. And so I said, well, whoever has gold, take it off. And they gave it to me. And when I threw it in the fire, look, this calf came out. That's crazy. Like, what? I'd like to have been a fly on the wall there. Did Moses slap him? Don't lie to me, you fool. What? That is lame. That is not taking personal responsibility for our actions. That's not facing the reality of our poor choices. And I know we can all struggle with that. We all might get defensive, but man, just man up, face it. Yeah, you're right. Man, I really dropped the ball here. I led your people into an orgy. Yeah, that's not what God called me to do. What was I thinking? And then make the change, repent, go the way we should go. But that's not what's going on. And so I'd suggest number 4 is that we need people who will hold us personally responsible for our poor choices. Again, nobody likes this. This isn't very fun. But it's a lot better than the alternative. It's a lot better than facing the wrath of an angry God that you have ignored and pushed aside and said, I don't need you because I've got the God of Egypt now. I've got me a golden calf. What do I need you for? We're experts at shifting the blame away from ourselves. I mean, Adam, blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. That goes back to the garden. Aaron convinced himself it was the people's fault. I'm just sitting here innocently praying, and they came and said, hey, make us a calf. Okay. I mean, it's their fault. No. I'm sure every single person there, if you were to take them aside, they'd say, well, this guy did it first. Well, she did it first. I couldn't help myself. I mean, what am I supposed to do? They gave me all this stuff to eat and drink, and we got lost in the moment. Somebody else did it. No, we do. Maybe not the same, but we'll play that game a little bit. Oh, it's my coworker's fault that I did this or that. It's my parents' fault. If they hadn't done this, I wouldn't be doing that. It's my spouse's fault. If they had done this, I'd do something different. Blame old relationships. Blame friends. And whose fault is it? Who did it? I did. Who worshiped before the calf? Well, the people who worshiped before the calf. No one made them do that. Who fashioned it? Aaron. No one made him do that. He chose. He gave him instructions. He followed. He played the game. I was in grade school. I've told many like I used to have a foul mouth, and I always say I was raised by wolves. And what it was my friend Scott and I, he was a year older, and we basically raised each other. We both said all the foul language. We both did the stealing club together. We'd be going to stores and steal stuff, and we were kept away from people because of our, we just made up words and screamed at each other, and it was fun. We loved it, every minute of it. But somewhere along the line, I found Christ, right? Christ found me, whatever, and I became a Christian, and all those things changed. I told him, oh, dude, sorry, man, I can't do the stealing club. And we're like, what? I can't steal, Jesus. This is right here in the top 10. I can't do it. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. And so I stopped the steal, my participation in that. And he also noticed that I stopped using the 4-letter words and all the combinations that you can put those together with. And we still were great friends because we'd spent so many hours together. Every day we'd go fishing, we'd do all this stuff, right? Riding our bikes and did the thing. But now we were going different paths. Well, somewhere down the line, far enough that I had clearly changed. One time, whatever we were doing, I let a 4-letter word rip out. And he immediately called on it, I thought you didn't do that anymore. And I immediately told him, I said, well, it's your fault because you swear all the time. And I can't help it now because now it's always in my head. I can't get it out of my head. It's your fault. And he didn't, it took him a second to say, you don't ever blame me for the words you say. You said that. Okay. Now, I hated to hear that. And it wasn't even from a Christian guy. But man, that hit me in the heart. And that taught me a valuable lesson at whatever grade, whatever, under 10-year-old, whatever I was at the time. And I thought, holy cow, you're right. As much as I wanted to blame him, I said that. I need to repent. I need to change. I need to do things differently. He was right. I just wanted to blame him. I didn't want to be responsible for my own poor choice. He called me out. We need people who will call us out. It's pretty bad when it's the non-Christian who calls us out. That means we're not surrounding ourselves with enough Christians to recognize this stuff. In chapter 32, verse 25, it says, Moses saw that the people were out of control. Aaron had let them get out of control, making them a laughing stock to their enemies. Now, this gets pretty hairy, what happens next. Please understand, as awful as it sounds, this is how seriously God takes sin, right? He's a laughing stock to their enemies. And Moses stood at the camp's entrance and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites gathered around him. So there's 12 tribes, one tribe. Okay, we're in. They're the Levites. They gathered around him. He told them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Every man fasten his sword to his side, go back and forth through the camp from the entrance to entrance, and each of you kill his brother, his friend, and his neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded. About 3,000 men fell dead that day among the people. Afterward, Moses said, "Today you have been dedicated to the Lord, since each man went against his son and his brother. Therefore you have brought a blessing on yourselves today." Wow. The following day, Moses said to the people, verse 30, "You have committed a grave sin." Now he's got the big crowd again, right? "You've committed a grave sin. Now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I'll be able to atone for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, these people have committed a grave sin. They've made a god of gold for themselves." Now, of course, God knew that. That's why he was going to wipe them out in the first place. And now, if you would only forgive their sin, but if not, please erase me from the book you've written. And the Lord replied to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will erase from my book. Now go, lead the people to the place I told you about. See, my angel will go before you, but on the day I settle accounts, I will hold them accountable for their sin." And the Lord inflicted a plague on the people for what they did with the calf Aaron had made. There were consequences for their actions. And that leads to number 5, is we need people in lives who will go to bat for us. Moses went to bat for him. He said, "God, man, take me out. Take me out too." It's like, no. Those who want forgiven will forgive. Those who don't, won't. I'll hold them account. God was ready to wipe the whole nation out earlier. Moses prayed. Moses stepped in the way. He took on this huge risk in this text. Just you won't forgive them, don't forgive me either. But I have to wonder, in all of this, was there no one who cared for these people enough to stop them? I mean, Moses was up on the mountain. He was fasting. They don't know what he's doing. And when all this starts, right, it started, with "Hey, I'm giving my earrings away. What are you doing that for? God gave you those when you came out of Egypt." "Well, we're going to have a new God now." Why didn't someone there say, whoa. No, you don't. Remember the plagues? Remember the Red Sea? And I'm sure some of those conversations took place. But why weren't there more? Why weren't there people standing in the way of people who were ready to throw their lives away? Where were the parents? Where were the spouses? Where were the friends to remind them of a commitment they had just made 40 days earlier? "We'll do anything you ask." Well, until we get a better offer. How in the world could everybody just sit there and watch their friends and relatives and children grieve God in such a way? And maybe say, we don't know the conversations that took place. We don't know. But man, I think it's easy for me to say a few thousand years later, if that was my child, I think I would pick them up and physically remove them from the situation. Say, "We are not worshiping this calf. We don't do that." And they can fight and scream all they want, but I'm going to save you from death. Because a lot of people died through this. I don't know. It seems that everybody just jumped in and thought, "Well, it seems right. I mean, food, there's drink, all the fun." Maybe it boils down to the fact that they were hoping somebody else would do it. If it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job, right? Well, somebody will say something. Someone will stop this. Maybe Aaron will stop it. He's like the second-hand man. He'll stop it. Well, he didn't stop it. Everybody was waiting for someone else to stand up and say, "Stop." And it never happened until Moses came down, broke the law, broke the tablets, caused a lot of problem. There had to be thousands of people in little micro, seeing what was going on, engaged in what was going on, concerned about the people that was there, what they were doing, grieving in their hearts. Don't you ever grieve for the culture? You just grieve, like, "Oh, you're so lost." And you just want to do something, right? There had to be thousands of people that were grieving for their people, but did nothing to help make it stop. Now, in a smaller context, say a church, I realize the last thing anybody wants is like a whole church following you around taking notes of what you're doing. you know, you were driving a little fast there, weren't you? Did I hear a naughty word? You don't need that. None of us react very well to that. Judging everything you do. That's what makes the smaller group so much more important. Because I do need someone watching me. I do need someone who cares enough that has permission. Like I say, nobody has permission to just barge into your life and slap you around. I mean, you're just not. They can try, but you're just not going to listen. You won't hear what they have to say. But someone who loves you, you're still not going to like it, but at least you'll think. At some point when you're honest with yourself and you get past the anger, you'll be like, yeah, man, they love me though. Surely they're not trying to hurt me. Maybe. I'm simplifying it, maybe. But I think that's what helps make small groups such a valuable part of our growth. It's just people that I've had relationship with years that have been able to, over time, pull me inside and say, dude, what are you doing? I don't have a golden calf going on, but I might have something else going on. Like, stop it. Like, I guess you're right. Guess you're right. We need that. The relationships that are formed in small groups allow us to be accountable to one another. They allow us to actually care. I think that's the difference. I'm not coming in proud of the fact that I found something wrong in your life. I'm coming in grieving that there's something in your life. And I'm grieving for you. It's a whole different thing. That's why I get personally involved. We need accountability. Because we're all going to make mistakes. And we're all just moments away from going from godly to wicked. It's just the human condition. It's how we are. So open yourself up to someone. Open yourself up to a group. Be available to them, to know them for your benefit. That's why we do these. Let's pray together.